For 4 years, one man's entire public identity was 4 words: never sell your Bitcoin. Michael Saylor said it on every stage, in every interview. He bet a public company on it. He bet his name on it. And just a couple days ago in a board authorization, that changed.
And my last point to you, you do not sell your Bitcoin.
Now, I'm not here to tell you Michael Saylor is a criminal. I'm not here to cancel GigaChad or even say he's giga bad for Bitcoin. I'm here to do something simpler. I'm going to lay out 4 things that are all, every one of them, a matter of public record: a board authorization, a subsidiary company, a federal security agreement, and a post that got a man banned from X before it resurfaced on Nostr. I'm going to show you the documents. I'm going to separate what we know from what we can only infer. And then I'm going to let you draw the conclusion that I think the evidence is pointing toward. You decide. Because the question isn't really, did Saylor sell? Or is he going to sell $1.25 billion worth of Bitcoin? The question is, was strategy ever only about Bitcoin? Or was it always something bigger? Welcome back, I'm Rustin, and we got a rabbit hole to go down. Sunday!
200.
No. The question I'm trying to get to though is like in 25, like you launching the preferreds, which I think are a really interesting product. Does that change the playbook for all these other companies, and how do they now compete against you? Now you have the preferreds as well.
I take issue with your question. It's an ignorant, insulting, myopic question. Why do you frame things that way? We're not competing with each other. That's like saying, well, you know, like I heard my neighbor bought Bitcoin and I bought Bitcoin. There's not enough room for both of us to buy Bitcoin. We're competing with each other. Now, my neighbor's got to buy another crypto asset? Like, we're not competing with each other, Danny. Like that's the ignorant part of the question, right? That's what I take issue with. What you have, if you're a hotel company in Japan, you're competing with other hotel companies in Japan. And the decision to buy Bitcoin is just a decision to improve the quality of your company. It's like saying how many companies can have electricity. I heard 200 companies have electricity, but there's one company that uses a lot of it. So do the other companies have to change their strategy? Dude, like, you think they had the same strategy? It's a silly question, and it's a myopic, ignorant, toxic framing of a question, and the result is you come to some ignorant conclusion.
So, were we wrong about Saylor? Has he lost the plot? Let's start with what actually happened, because the facts matter more than our emotions and reactions. And if you're new here, don't forget to click subscribe. It really helps us out and helps you stay informed with the best in Bitcoin news delivered to you daily. Okay, so Strategy's board authorized something they're calling the Bitcoin monetization program. And under it, the company can now sell Bitcoin for 3 specific purposes. 1, build a US dollar reserve. 2, fund the dividends on its preferred stock and the interest on its debt. 3, buy back its own common stock and its digital credit securities. Here's the honest version, taken on its own. A CFO building in flexibility is not a scandal. That's kind of the job. The CFO, Andrew King, framed it exactly that way. Greater flexibility to use its Bitcoin reserves while maintaining shareholder value. Reasonable words on their face. Context is everything. This is the company whose whole thesis, the reason retail bought in, the reason nation states paid attention, was that it would never do this. The capital structure used to point one direction, accumulate. Now it has 2 points, and one of those directions is the exit. And here's a part that gives some people pause. This is a company carrying roughly $1.5 billion in preferred obligations, small in comparison to that massive stack, but payments that come due on a schedule, whether Bitcoin is up or down. An authorization to sell in that situation is a pressure valve, and pressure valves get used. And this isn't just me connecting dots. Bloomberg, reporting on the overhaul, put it plainly. The move was meant to show Strategy would support its dividend And instead, it raised fresh doubts about the durability of the structure. That word, structure, is the whole story. So let's look at the structure because there's a piece of it almost nobody talks about. There's a company called MicroStrategy Government Services, MGS. If you hold MicroStrategy and you've never heard of it, you're not alone. Most shareholders haven't. Here's what the research and claims show. Around 2021-2022, the same year Saylor took the Bitcoin strategy fully public, Strategy incorporated this subsidiary. On paper, its purpose is selling software to the US government, and by itself, that's unremarkable. Plenty of companies do that. What's not unremarkable is how it's governed. MGS operates under what's called a special security agreement, allegedly, and if that's the case, it's not a casual arrangement. A special security agreement is a formal federal mechanism used when a company handles classified information, and of course, if they're doing data exchange as a software company, understandable. But under it, the company hands over a degree of operational control to a board the US government has to approve. Now, read that again. A subsidiary of the company holding the largest Bitcoin treasury on Earth is governed by an agreement in which the founder doesn't fully control his own board, allegedly. So, who is on it? This is all public, and apparently it includes someone named Karen Schaefer. And this pedigree is crazy 26 years at the CIA. And according to her own record, she managed covert action programs at the National Security Council. Not analysis, not desk work, covert action for, I don't know, the president? That's who's on the board of a company that does government software. I guess that makes sense, right? Now, here's the tension I can't resolve for you, and I won't pretend I can. Nobody outside the company can tell you exactly what MGS bills the government. The public contract records are a little murky, and a lot of that business moves through resellers, allegedly. But by one estimate, according to some research we were able to find, it's around 50 million a year in government software sales. 50 million. And I'll be straight. I mean, kind of look at this. 50 million in software does not on its own explain hiring someone who ran covert action at the NSC. That's a little bit of a mismatch. The resume is a little bigger than the business. I don't know, maybe she just likes Bitcoin. And one more detail for the file. Strategy's headquarters sit about 10 to 15 minutes from CIA headquarters in Langley. Okay, let me steelman the boring explanation because we all deserve this. Government contractors use special security agreements all the time. Defense veterans sit on a lot of boards. Proximity to Langley is just Northern Virginia real estate. All true, all fair. But hold that fair explanation next to what we covered in Finding One, a company that just authorized selling over $1 billion of Bitcoin, and ask yourself whether routine software subsidiary still feels like the whole picture. I'm not asserting it isn't. I'm asking you to keep the question open because it gets more interesting. This is the finding that matters most, so I'm going to slow down. There's a law, Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Section 981, Civil Asset Forfeiture. And here's the part that matters. Under civil forfeiture, the government doesn't have to convict anyone of a crime. It sues the property itself to take it. It only has to show, by a preponderance of the evidence, the lowest bar there is that the assets are tied to unlawful activity. No conviction, no jury, no new law, no vote in Congress, no Bitcoin-specific legislation, just a statute that's been on the books for decades now. Let's try to be precise. I'm not telling you Michael Saylor has broken securities laws. I'm telling you he runs an unusually complex public company, promising aggressive price targets, issuing structurally complicated preferred instruments with a prior civil settlement history. That's a profile that interacts with this statute. Whether it ever triggers it, I don't know, and neither does anyone outside the SEC, possibly. But play the scenario forward. If an enforcement action ever landed, forfeiture attaches to the assets. And what does Strategy hold? 847,363 Bitcoin, around 50 billion at today's prices, which would, in a single legal stroke, convert into the largest Bitcoin reserve held by any government on Earth. No appropriation, no public debate. It would simply move from corporate custody into federal custody. And this isn't hypothetical machinery, it's been used. Silk Road, over $1 billion in Bitcoin taken through civil forfeiture. The government suing the coins themselves. Binance, a $4.3 billion resolution, including $2.5 billion forfeited after pleading guilty. The Tornado Cash developers prosecuted and convicted. Different tools, but the same message. The government has the standing, the reach, and the willingness to go after crypto at scale. Strategy would just be a far larger and far more valuable target. And step back to the macro for a second, because it is relevant, not a tangent. The fiat system is staring at a $40 trillion debt and a dollar that's lost most of its purchasing power over the last century, though we get a little bump recently. But when a system can't inflate its way out anymore, it starts looking very hard at where the real scarce, seizable assets actually sit. And 847,363 Bitcoin sitting inside a U.S. corporation with a federal security agreement attached to it on the map that's a very bright dot. Here's a line that kind of ties this together. Saylor is a legend, but he's walking on a tightrope over the volcano of state power. And it's also the kind of thing, the kind of line that got somebody removed from the internet. He's kind of back now, but someone posting as Cato the Elder. And that name's a tell. Cato was the Roman senator who ended every speech the same way. Carthage must be destroyed. That is totally one of the most based handles ever created. Anyway, he wrote a detailed thread laying it all out. The subsidiary, the security agreement, the board, and the things that make you wonder if strategy is an economic military operation, a way for the US government to hold Bitcoin at arm's length with plausible deniability, and then his account was suspended. The post didn't vanish, though. It moved to Nostr, the censorship-resistant protocol, which is exactly where information goes when someone decides it shouldn't exist in the corporate internet. The receipts are still up. Here's his core question, and I think it's a fair one. Why does a software company doing $50 million a year employ people who ran covert action at the National Security Council? His answer is that it isn't really a software company. Now, this is the moment where an honest reporter has to stop and tell you that he can't verify. So I cannot confirm Cato's conclusion. I don't have a security clearance. I can't see what MGS actually does behind that agreement. And I can't read Saylor's intent. But here's what I can tell you, and it's the most important sentence in this video. Every individual fact in that post, the subsidiary, the incorporation, the security agreement, the CIA and defense backgrounds, the proximity to Langley, the forfeiture statute, every one of those is documented in public. What got him banned wasn't a fabricated fact, it was the conclusion he drew from the facts. And that conclusion has only aged into more relevance, not less. Consider what's piled up since Eric Trump publicly called Saylor a national treasure. And a national treasure describes someone whose work serves the nation, not the shareholders. Tom Lee floated the idea of the US government taking a strategic stake in MicroStrategy. President Trump has pledged the government will never sell its seized Bitcoins. And the government already holds roughly $20 billion from past seizures, allegedly pinky promises to never let go of a coin. Put all the pieces on the table. A monetization program that loosens the Bitcoin, a security agreement that's a doorway into the company, a forfeiture statute that needs no new law, a CEO publicly described as a national asset, and a sitting precedent for the government taking strategic stakes in private firms. I'm not asking you to believe conspiracy. I'm asking you to add up a set of documented facts. Before I land this, I owe you the strongest version of the other case, because if I skip it, I'm not reporting. I'm just shilling or, being a idealist or a fundamentalist. You know what I'm talking about. But the skeptic's case is solid. Correlation isn't causation. Government contractors look exactly like this all the time, and it proves nothing. Saylor's behavior cuts against the theory. If you were quietly building a honeypot, why travel the world telling every nation state on earth to buy the asset? That's a strange way to run a trap. And the forfeiture scenario requires real violations that so far simply haven't occurred. Those are good points. Hold on to them. Now the other side, the structure doesn't need Saylor to be in on it. It functions whether he's a willing participant or just a useful one. Governments don't announce these things in press releases. We learn about it after it was done, not before, and the timing is hard to wave off. The subsidiary was incorporated the same year the Bitcoin strategy went public, and it was staffed with covert action and homeland defense people, specifically not generic software executives. Here's the number that keeps me up. Government seized Bitcoin plus Strategy's holdings is north of 1 million coins. 2 structures, a documented government connection inside one of them, and a legal path to merge them that requires no one's permission. That's not a theory. It's kind of like 10th grade math. Arithmetic. Math matters. We're about to bring it home, but before we do, look at our likes.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Oh, and step down from that ledge, my friend. This isn't Bitcoin failing. It's these goons trying to put Bitcoin through a humiliation ritual, and it only works on people who took the paper exit. It's like the plebs are shipping the patch core wouldn't. Dr. Cruz, the brain surgeon, said he's running it on his node on August 5th. You can run it too. You can run Notch. You can run whatever you want. That's the point. You can run your node tonight. Hit up the Bitcoin way. You can stop being a paper Bitcoin holder tonight. They're betting that you won't. But I think you'll prove them wrong. And here's the dirty secret about every other Bitcoin-backed lender. They're lending your collateral out. They're rehypothecating it. They're playing the same fractional reserve game the banks play with your Bitcoin. And when the music stops, your stack is gone. Ledn doesn't do that. Their custodied loan product means your Bitcoin sits in cold storage. Never lent out, never touched. That's the Satoshi standard. 8 years, $10 billion in origination, 0 customer Bitcoin lost. Lowest rates in the industry, no hidden fees, no fine print, auto top up so you never get liquidated by a wick. 0 prepayment penalties, paid off whenever you want. Don't sell your Bitcoin to buy a house, a car, a business. Borrow against it. Keep your stack. Scan the QR or click the link in the description and head over to ledn.io. So were Bitcoiners wrong about Saylor? Here's where I kind of land. I'll give it to you straight. I don't think they were wrong about Bitcoin. I think they may have been wrong about the structure they bought to get it. Because here's the thing about a honeypot. A honeypot doesn't have to know it's a honeypot. Saylor can be the most sincere Bitcoin advocate who ever lived. And every word he says can be true. And the structure he built can still have a door in it that he didn't install. Intent and architecture are 2 different things. The facts only speak to the architecture. And the architecture is this: a subsidiary under federal security agreement, allegedly, a board with covert action pedigree, crazy, a treasury of well over 800,000 coins, a statute that can move them without a vote, and a government that has already called the man a national treasure. Remember what too big to fail actually meant in 2008? It didn't mean safe. It meant the candidate for a government takeover. The only thing that's changed is the asset. Last time it was mortgage paper. This time it might be the hardest money ever created. I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm going to tell you what I would check, and that's where your Bitcoin actually lives, because Saylor's conviction was never the same thing as your custody. And you don't have to find out the hard way. Oh, and if you're serious about Bitcoin mining, there's one event you need to be at this summer. Mining Disrupt 2026, Miami, July 21st through the 23rd. This is the conference for miners, hardware makers, energy companies, and anyone building real Bitcoin infrastructure. Keynotes, panels, massive expo floor. The deals that shape this industry happen here. Use promo code SimplyBitcoin for 20% off your tickets at miningdisrupt.com, and we'll see you in Miami. That's the show. Hey, kind of either way, Saylor is either a legend or a patriot. If this gives you a framework you didn't have an hour ago, that's the whole point. So smash the like, hit subscribe, tell me in the comments where you land. Was Cato right? We want to know. Stay humble, stack sats. Love you guys. Catch you next time. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.